Well, hello and welcome to this CAP conversation. I'm really excited I love sharing wins from our CAP community with our graduates. And so with me today is Sheila Carmichael. Sheila has been through CTI twice. She is also a certified personal executive coach. And not only did she achieve her associate certified coach through the ICF, she is a professional certified coach. And on her way to becoming a master certified coach, Sheila, you just submitted recently your application for your MCC, which is the highest credential you can get in the ICF.
Yes, that was my goal. You set a goal out there and you just stay focused on it. And I kept saying, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. And I was thinking it was going to be sometime this year. But I looked back at my log and I was like, oh, I can do this sooner. So I just did at the top of the year.
Wow. Okay. So take me all the way back to when you first discovered the CAP Institute. How long has it been? What led you to us? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was in between in transitions, like from one corporate gig to another. And I thought, I need to start practicing what I help others do and find their niche, so to speak. And I thought, let me go into coaching. I always loved that in corporate America. Let me just go and do this on my own. And as I looked at programs, Valerie, your message and your story in one of your books just touched my heart. And when you think about coaching is about the relationship and the chemistry you have with the person who's going to help you with your breakthroughs, it was something about the way you spoke to your own breakthroughs. I said, you know what? I need to connect with this person. This person understands. And she's been through things that very similarly align to my own experiences. And immediately there's this electricity that you feel when you step into your program, because everyone's there trying to get through their transition and define their goals and things. So I did that in 2012, and it was amazing because immediately I was able to apply everything from my first round of CAP to a new, great, amazing job of internally supporting the talent management and coaching for global folks. And that was like the dream corporate job. How do I get to some international exposure? I was able to coach within like 2 years our top high potential leaders as a result of your coaching program flawlessly. That was amazing. They didn't know what this was. And they were like, wow, how did you do that? And I followed the Sarah model and da, 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 da. So
that's incredible. Okay, so let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
The one for if you don't know what a Sarah is, if you're a graduate, you know a Sarah, but that's our coaching model. That is the structure of a powerful coaching session. The client can't see it, but you know exactly what you're doing. It gives you a great deal of confidence. So I'm excited to hear that. But I'm wondering, what was your role? What were you doing before that you were so seamlessly able to just begin coaching right there within the organization?
No, it's a good question. Most of my career has been in human resources, dealing with developing talent, helping with succession planning, making sure that not only we're putting the right people in the right roles, but are they going to be able to perform in the way that they need to? And so coaching was already a part of that. The CAP Institute really helped with, how do I put a more structure around this instead of just kind of, nilly-willy working these things through.
Right. Telling people what to do. Giving them a plan.
Yes. And then modeling it for leaders to also have some type of a framework for them to follow, because you can't follow leaders everywhere they go, right? And say, this is what you need to say, and this is what you need to do. But if they can see a model of that and start practicing that, then it starts infiltrating throughout the organization. So yeah, that was really key. I'd gone through training and have done several leadership development programs, but having a true coaching certification program, it puts that framework, it puts those anchors in, so you're keeping on track and you're focused with what you're trying to deliver.
So it sounds like in using a Sarah and using what you had learned through your training at the CAP Institute, you were implementing on a very high level with very impactful people. Tell me a bit about where that confidence came from, or if there were any key tools that you used over and over again that helped you to get results with the people that you were working with.
Yeah, that's a great question because I'm reflecting back on the 2012, and then remember I reinforced it with 2017. And then doing it not just from a domestic perspective, this was an international role. So this is how powerful that model was. It translated in Asia, it translated in Europe, it translated in Central America. And so having a framework for folks to think through a process of what is it that they really want to focus on, and how will they know by focusing on that it's aligning to the importance of what they need to do and actually measuring that as they're going through it. That's no different than what businesses do when they're looking at their objectives for the year, right? But somehow along the way, we don't translate that same type of methodology into a development. We think we do, but it's not quite as structured. And it's a fluid conversation to really tie it back to business objectives. Yes, these are the things you need to do as a leader. Well, how does that tie back to the things that you're trying to accomplish and the importance behind that? Right. So it was very seamless. It's that conversation that has a structure, but it feels very fluid. I think that's where you're asking. As far as
absolutely.
Move over, it was that seamless to do that. And it didn't matter whether the culture, the location, the region, it just naturally folks were walking away from those conversations feeling like, wow, I hadn't thought about it that way. And as coaches, that's when we go, yes.
I know the excitement of helping people actually move forward. And I'm thinking, did you know when you went back into your organization with a Sarah that it would work that well? Or at some point were you like, well, I thought it was good, but I'm learning it's even more than I maybe had anticipated?
I think it was a little bit of both, Valerie. Going through the experience and the practices and the different segments of the program, each time while sitting there, I thought, wow, my mind was thinking, how am I going to use this and where can I use this? So that part was there. And then when you put it into application, then that's when you see that, oh, this was even more powerful than what I anticipated.
Wow.
So yeah, definitely.
So you were doing that for a couple of years, and then what? How did your career continue to unfold, and then you decide to come back for a second CTI?
Yeah, because it's a good point. There are thousands of programs, good programs out there. What drew me back to CAP was that it was very targeted. It had structure. It had a format. It allowed for the experience of working through that. So it wasn't just a dip. It was a full experience of understanding this. So it's no different than when you go to a training program and you say, wow, you walk away with all the excitement. And then later you go, wait a minute, I'm forgetting some things. It was reinforcing the original excitement. Yeah. So from that, as with, sometimes in corporate America, things work and things don't. So I was at another cross point of transitioning again. And I thought, okay, this time I want to do something different. I'm just going to go out there, leap of faith, and start my own business. I had that bug the first time I went through, but a carrot with an international spin was presented.
Right. So, you're like, no, I want this experience, which it sounds like it served you very well too.
It did. Mm-hmm. And then even when that came to the end of its term, I said, okay, let's go in full feet. And it continues to fuel, because then State Farm goes, well, we need someone to come in and help us with this coaching. So I'm continuing to use those things and principles and concepts that I learned from CAP, along with others, to just kind of really hone in and pursue my goals with ICF and PCC and MCC and all of that.
That is so exciting. So when did you launch your business full time?
My business was launched the December of 2016. It was like a soft launch. And that was something I learned from the first time in CAP. One of the facilitators, we were talking, and I had my own little mental, gremlins jumping in and hijacking things. And she said something that was so powerful. She said, "You're already a coach, Sheila." And I was like, yeah, I guess I am. And that was a turning point. And so launching a soft in December of 2016, and then officially January of 2017, it just
So,
took
okay,
off.
so tell me what you mean. She said you're already a coach. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going, well, yeah, you've been through the training, you've been coaching for a while. What was the significance of that statement when it hit you?
Yeah. And I'll give full credit to Laverne, I think
Yes,
is the name.
LaFerme
Yeah.
Beatty. Yep.
There's a section in your program that talked about business development. And then she said, if you had any, questions and things like that, I mean, everyone has that little voice talking to them, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And this one was not so good. And I was somehow putting this internal mental block that I had to wait for something before I could call that out. I had to ensure something. I won't say it's a perfectionist, it's a strive for excellence. So I'm trying to check my boxes. And that's one of the things you do in corporate America, right? You're checking and making sure and everything's crossed and all the T's, and the I's are dotted. And I kept thinking I had to go through this process before I could hang the shingles out and say, coach. And after talking with Laverne, she's like,
Not the shingle.
yeah. And she's like, you've already been doing this, right? You've been in HR for 20 some years. You've already been supporting development. What's the difference between that and you actually doing it now? And it's like, I guess you're right. I have been. I don't know why I didn't think about that before, but look at the power of coaching. Someone bringing something to your awareness, causing you to shift your thinking and
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Raising awareness. That's one of those coaching core competencies.
Exactly.
That happened right there in the midst of the training.
Right there, it was a quick conversation in between from one segment module to the other, and just like, wow, that just like reshaped everything.
So you've been able to have a successful business.
Mhm.
You've been able to attract and maintain coaching clients.
Mhm.
If there was one piece of advice you give to any other coach that's like, I want to make that leap
Mhm.
into full-time entrepreneurship as a coach, using my training and my background, what would you say to them?
That's another good question. The number one thing that I would say to them, my own lessons learned, reduce that noise. It's an unnecessary noise. And really evaluate, how's that noise serving you? It may be there to help support you. Okay, that's great. But many times it's getting in the way. And
So
that
what's the noise? What does that
yeah,
sound like?
yeah, that noise is should I, could I, would have, and what if in this whole completely wrong way versus what if I did yes in a positive way? What about the possibilities of this and exploring of that and everything else? Just just reducing that and validating it really. Is it really something that's going to serve you in that moment? And sometimes it's the external noise that people are,
Are you
everybody
sure?
wants to help.
Right.
It
You
is
should do it
like,
this way. Don't do that. Do you have to do it now? Could you wait? It's a
yeah,
lot.
it
How
it is
did you reduce that noise?
it was really just pausing in that moment and saying, "Why am I thinking that?" Asking my own whys to myself. Like,
Yes.
what is that for? What's causing that? And no, that's not aligned with what my vision and my purpose is. So many people were telling me you should call your business this. You need to do this with your business. You need to have these systems. You need to do that. Da, 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 da. And it's overwhelming when you're going into entrepreneurship and you don't know. When you're used to working in corporate and you have all these resources, you start appreciating, wow, I did have some extended resources.
Right. That you can kind of start to take for granted.
Exactly. You had people who you could go to and at least bounce ideas and things like that. But when you step into this solo, you need a community and a village that has like-minded approaches and things to support and lift you versus trying to advise and steer you in their direction versus aligning to your own.
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
So I hear you using what we talk about in our resilience training, noticing those thoughts,
Yes.
questioning those thoughts, and deciding if the thoughts are helpful or hurtful. If they're hurtful, letting them go.
Let them go.
And choosing new thoughts. So what about on the marketing side?
Yeah.
Thoughts on, how did you fill up a practice? How did you make this what you do?
It is a journey. You have to really put some realistic expectations of where you are and what you're hoping to accomplish. And you need to set out a strategic plan. So those are the great things from corporate that I learned, is say, you know what? How do corporations do this? And in reality, you don't have those resources. So how do you strategically map this out in a way and keep evolving it? So to think there's this like silver bullet, you know, big corporations didn't start off with one big thing and then it just fueled off from there.
Right.
They kept evolving it. They kept getting feedback in the right way and looking and asking the right questions, and stayed anchored to that vision of where they were trying to go for. So as you're getting that advice and you're looking at your plan, financially, businesses look at things on a quarterly basis. So that's what I started doing. You set out a strategic plan at the top of the year. I've got a whiteboard. That's what I do. You evaluate it every month. You look at your financials, all those things that you do as a business. You need to practice those as well in your coaching practice.
Mm.
Keeps
And
you.
so did you attract clients that you have been doing work with corporately? Did you already have a kind of network that lent itself to coaching, or did you start building up some of those over time?
No, another good question. I had to build up because my brand was internal talent management executive. And so I had to rebrand that personal and professional image towards executive coach. So the network I already had, they're thinking, oh, she's looking and seeking opportunities within corporate. I had to shift that thinking and rebrand that into more, no, it's about external, as an external coach, coaching.
Uh-oh. Oh, it looks like
Something happened. Yeah.
All right, we're back. Okay, so just a couple more questions.
Uh-huh.
Because I know when I'm thinking of coaches as they are building, I know how I did it. Some of it was like individual conversations, um, phone calls, lunches when we were when we were able to do all the face-to-face stuff.
Right.
Was it for you? Was it picking up the phone? Was it email? Was it kind of when you say branding, was it up, here's my new website, here's what I'm up to? Was it announcements? How did you help people begin seeing you differently as
Mhm.
opposed to this corporate talent management person to an executive coach?
Yeah, no, you always have great questions. Um, here's a confession. I am not a marketer. I'm not a business development
That's
person.
hard to believe with all the success you've been having.
I'm not even the extreme extrovert that people think they see in front of them. That is not my MO. I hate selling all those different things. So I'm just being transparent. I had to step into some uncomfortable, new, innovative ways to do that for me. Not everybody's approach to marketing and business development works for everyone. And I went through a lot of, you know, thinking something was going to happen as a result of outsourcing something to support me, and it didn't. There were learning moments in that, but it just didn't get me to where I wanted to go. So the main thing that I did that was consistent, that I was hearing how to start and brand and market my business, was identifying who it was that I wanted as my client. And once I started with that, and you talked about that in the program, that day 3 with the business development, once I got very clear about who were my ideal clients, the ones that I know based on who I am and what I bring, when I got clear with that, then it helped me to strengthen the marketing strategy for that, my website, my communications, and it made me more comfortable with going out and not cold calling, but looking at it more as a conversation
Oh,
and a
which sounds so
connection.
much more enjoyable when you're
Yeah,
not someone who loves the sales and the marketing element, because that's not
exactly.
really what it is. It is a conversation. It's connecting,
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
what you're doing is serving,
Yeah.
really. It's a way of helping people transform their lives. So there is an offering, but it is that connecting. I love hearing you say that, like, that wasn't my passion. I wasn't a VP of marketing. I wasn't, I wasn't a salesperson.
I had great mentors along the way and I would tap into them. But for the most part, when I got clear about that, then everything became easier. It was less stressful. I could make decisions, yes and no, and fall back to that because they aligned with who I naturally am and not trying to follow a 5-point process for marketing on YouTube or you won't see that with me because that's just not, you know.
It's not
not
you, and people can sense that.
Yeah, they
I
can.
think that's really such an important thing to take away is authenticity matters.
Exactly.
And also something else you said was really, you got specific about who your audience was, who you really wanted to serve. You know, when we teach the goal setting and goal getting course in CPEC, we talk about goal setting theory and research and what it says. And one of those building blocks is specificity.
Yes.
That the more specific the goal, the more specific the actions become. When we have a vague goal, it's very hard to get very specific actions we need to take. But when we get very specific about what we're aiming for,
yes,
the next action steps become more obvious. So whether you were doing that purposely because you knew that and had learned that, or it was just one of those things that unfolded that, wait, here's who I want.
exactly.
So here's what I need to do now. Here's who I need to talk to or how I'm going to communicate and
Yeah,
so forth.
it's that noise. Just stop, even with good intentions, the advice, you still are the ultimate decision maker on that. How are you checking that with what's right for you? And everybody has their own unique philosophy for coaching, right? Mine is truly, how do I keep you staying true and authentic to you? That's where my passion is.
Yeah.
Whether you're the executive of this function, you're trying to aspire into an executive more larger responsibility and scope, do that, but do that as it aligns to you versus trying to conform to some code or profile or persona. I get excited about that. And to your point, people see that and they go, yes, I can identify with that versus trying to sell or put a spin on something that's really not you. They will see that in a heartbeat. Like they will know that, what? That's not you.
Oh, that's so good. So Sheila, is there anything else you would say to that person who's maybe either thinking about jumping into coaching or thinking about going to that next level? They've done, maybe they have or haven't done coach training, but they're like, I think this might be possible. Is there any advice you have to them about how or whether they should move forward?
Wow. As coaches, I approach it as a holistic decision. Um, I may lean in one area more than the other, but I'm practicing more and supporting others more with a more holistic approach. So, yes, you may be thinking it. You can put all those no or yes, I should type of things to it. How's it also supporting your passion? How is it speaking to your emotions? Is it pulling you in? Is it drawing you in? And then something that is sometimes underestimated, your intuition. And how is it aligning there? Because that's probably picking up on things that the thoughts and then even the emotions could be overshadowing. So when you're approaching that decision with should I go into coaching, what's your thoughts around that and how is it aligning with what your heart is speaking to it and what your senses are telling you? And if those things line up, then I say move forward. If they're not lining up, then ask yourself why.
Why? What's
Yeah.
missing?
What's missing? What do you need for it to line up? Because if that's missing, you need to identify that for making any decision, whether it's coaching or any other life decision you're trying to make. When they line up, you can step fully in. And when those naysayers or weird advisors come knocking on your door, you now can make really firm, conscious decisions around this is something I'm moving forward to, and I'm good with saying no, or this is something I'm moving forward to, and I'm really good with saying yes.
That is so good. It's so simple but easy for us to forget, and I appreciate your reminder. I remember when I went through my first coach training, it was very short, about 2.5 days. It's what I modeled CTI after. I went through this in 2002. And I was in the room with these people who shared my passion. And it took me 3 more years, crazy enough,
Yeah.
to kind of finish up my coach training because I was overthinking, overanalyzing. And when I finally moved forward, I thought, what had I been waiting for? I could not stay away from coaching.
Yes.
I am in love with this profession. It is not it's transformational, but it's impacted me.
Yeah.
It's changed who I am and how I approach my life, and it's reduced my stress level, and it's contributed to my success and my resilience. When I finally gave myself permission to just embrace what, as you said, is what my intuition was telling me, what my passion was telling me, it doesn't take me energy to do this. I mean, yeah, it's energy, but the energy's there because the excitement is there, the enthusiasm is there, the passion for it really fuels, I think, our perseverance.
Exactly.
And ultimately our ability to get to those goals and that vision that we might have for ourselves.
Yeah.
As coaches.
I love you saying that because I know why I was in those roles in corporate, because they did exactly that. They fed me and energized me and motivated me. And then when it was time to switch or shift or change, looking for that same thing.
Yeah.
And as you know, it may happen immediately or it could happen over time, but it will happen when it is supposed to, because that space in between is giving you information. So when the timing is right, whoosh, it's going to take off.
And it does. And I'm so excited that it's taken off for you.
Thank you.
I mean, all of these years, 2012, when we first crossed paths, and you coming back in 2017, and me basically just, I didn't realize you had your PCC. I don't know why, but we crossed paths online. I was like, look at Sheila, look at what she's up to. And now to know that you're on your way to your MCC, I am so proud of you and so happy for you.
Thank you.
And just excited to get to share your story with our CAP community. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation and share it.
Well, thank you. I look at you as not only a peer, but a coach mentor. I still have my recording. So I don't know if you still do this in the program that you
Nope.
sent us, that you actually sent a voice recording. Hi, Sheila, this is Valerie.
Yes.
Just want to let you know, I still have that. That's one of my anchors. Just hearing that, it's like, yes. It keeps you going on some of those days where it's not so great and you need something to give you
Oh my
that
goodness.
booster.
I had forgotten about that. I need to start doing that again. And you can do things and not even realize that it really does.
That had a huge, it is in my iPhone playlist, and sometimes it'll come up when I'm walking and I go, there we go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Oh,
very powerful. Very powerful.
Well, thank you, Sheila. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.